Congressman Kean Jr. hasn't cast a vote in the House in more than 2 months now.
Nick Calloway reports on how New Jersey voters are reacting to his absence.
I wish him well, and I hope that he gets better soon and that he can run for re-election.
In New Jersey's 7th congressional district, constituents both worry about Kean Jr. and wonder where he's been.
I think that he served the district and the area well. I think in light of the tight election, it's really important to be open and communicative.
That last voter said the quiet part out loud. Quote, in light of the tight election, it's really important to be open and communicative, end quote. This is a story that I have been following for a bit, along with some other journalists as well. You may or may not have heard about this story. A couple days ago, a friend of mine, Jay, sent me a clip to this story in the New York Post. And he said, if you haven't addressed this yet, this is a good story. And I thought, oh, this is perfect. A perfect excuse to dive in the story. So let's talk about it. Kean Jr., Republican congressman from New Jersey's 7th District, has not cast a vote in the House since March 5th. That is 77 days. His office has said he is dealing with a, quote, personal medical issue, end quote. They have said he will be back, quote, soon, end quote. They have said he is in, quote, daily communication, end quote, with his staff. His father, who is a former governor of New Jersey, has been quoted in the local paper as well, discussing that his son is dealing with something. And also, Kean Jr.'s social media feeds keep posting about him in the first person with older photos, like nothing's happened. And the literature being put out by his office also speaking in the first person. They're all acting like nothing's happening. What we have not seen from him is him. No video, no photo from whatever he's recovering from, no press conference, no timeline, no category of illness, just a vague promise that transparency is coming. Eventually, trust us. And that is what I want to talk about today, because this is a near perfect case study in something I think a lot of leaders and a lot of organizations get wrong when something goes sideways. Saying you will be transparent soon is not the same as being transparent. In fact, it's the opposite. Every time you promise transparency without delivering it, you are not buying time. You are highlighting the gap. You are taking a flashlight and pointing it directly at the thing you do not want people to look at, and then asking them politely to look away. It does not work. It has never worked. And the longer you do it, the louder it gets. Now, here is the thing that is interesting about this particular story. And the reason I wanted to record this episode quickly in the days before Memorial Day weekend. As I mentioned, the only reason this is not a full-blown national scandal right now is because there is so much other news happening. The news cycle is doing Kean's team a huge favor. Trump drama, Iran, foreign conflicts, things going on campuses, AI commencement speeches, all of it sucking up the oxygen. So this story has been sitting in the corner, getting picked at by local New Jersey reporters and a handful of national outlets that treat it more like a curiosity than a crisis. People magazine wrote it up. The New York Times Metro section, NBC News, Daily Cause, the New York Post. I was watching a video from a local New Jersey outlet. People are certainly diving into it. But here's what people who manage crises for a living know, people like me. And what I think Kean's team is either ignoring or banking on people not understanding. A crisis does not follow a timeline. They have a funny way of refusing to cooperate with the schedule you wanted them on. You can try to slow walk a story. You can try to time it. You can try to push it past an election or past a recess or past a holiday weekend. But you cannot actually control when it pops. And the more you try to force it to behave, the worse it tends to behave. If you try to force transparency, I promise you, you will force the door wide open. More people will start to pay attention, not fewer. The act of managing the silence is what makes the silence interesting. Right now, this is not an above the fold story. That's like a journalism term. If you think back to a newspaper and the newspapers were sitting in the newspaper holder container on the street and you walk by and you see the headline, you see the photo, that's an above the fold story. Unless You live in New Jersey. But the second there is a lull in the bigger news cycle, the second a cable producer needs a Sunday morning segment, the second a primary opponent decides to make it an issue, this story is going to come right back to the surface. So that's why I want to look at it now. Let's see if we can spot the clues. Let's see if we can make some predictions about where this goes based on what Kean and his team are actually doing. Here's what I think they're doing and what it tells us. One, they are using the word personal as offense, a personal medical issue. It is a phrase that is meant to do two things at once. It's meant to say, this is sensitive, and also stop asking. And on day 5, the phrase works. But on day 50, it doesn't. On day 77, it actively makes things worse because the gap between what the phrase implies and what the situation has become is too wide for the phrase to cover anymore. 2, they are letting other people speak for him. His father has spoken to the press. The House GOP leadership has been quoted saying that they are respecting his privacy. Colleagues have been quoted off the record saying they have no idea what's going on. When the only people speaking are the people who do not have the answers, you do not have a communication strategy. You have a vacuum. And vacuums get filled every single time by whatever or whomever is loudest. 3, they are running the social media accounts like he is at his desk. First person posts, older photos. The brand is talking even though the person is not. This is what I would call a simulated presence. And it is one of the most quietly dishonest things a public figure can do. Because what it tells the audience is, we know you want to hear from him, so we are going to make it look like you are. We're going to perform the appearance of representation when the actual representation is offline. And people can feel that. They might not be able to articulate it. They might not be able to fully speak about it online, on social media. They may not even know where to go, like on Facebook, a community page. Has anybody wondered where he was? But people can feel it, especially the people in New Jersey. And it erodes trust in a way that is much harder to recover from than just saying nothing at all. 4, they keep promising that more information is coming. Soon, just a couple more weeks. He told a reporter on the phone he expects to be back, quote, in a couple of weeks, end quote. Okay. But that promise has been made before, and the clock keeps resetting. And at some point, the constituents and the reporters and the colleagues are going to stop accepting soon as a substitute for now. Now, I want to be careful here because I think there is a real legitimate tension in this story, and I don't want to pretend that there isn't one. He very well could be dealing with a personal medical issue. And there is an argument, though a very thin one, for wanting to remain private and being allowed to remain private. But there are better ways to communicate that. If that were the case, I think we would have a much different communication strategy. So right now, what it feels like is this tension does mean that there is something there. So we can't pretend that there isn't something there. Make no mistake, this is a cover-up. And I want to say that clearly. Even if it's a cover-up for a completely understandable reason, even if Tom Kean Jr. is dealing with a serious medical crisis, even if the diagnosis is something he, as a human being, has every right to want to keep private. And certainly, people have a right to keep their medical issues private. But when that person is public and a public servant, no less, the constituents deserve to have answers, at least more specifics, because right now this is still a cover-up. Because cover-up is not a word that requires malice. It just requires that information is being withheld from the people who have a stake in it. And that is what is happening. And here's the part I want you to sit with, because I think it is the part that gets missed in conversations about public figures and their right to privacy. When you choose to be a public servant, you accept a different deal than the rest of us. The public is paying your salary. The public hired you to do a specific job in a specific room on a specific schedule. The public is your boss. And when you cannot do that job, your boss has a right to know. Not necessarily the diagnosis, not the medical charts, not your private records, but the basic structural information about whether you can do the work you were hired to do. it would sound like I'm dealing with a health issue. Here's the general category. Here's the expected timeline. Here's who is making the decisions in my absence. Here's how my staff is voting my values when I cannot be there. That is the minimum. That is not invasive. That is the deal. Example, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. You remember back 2 years ago when she simply vanished. Nobody knew what was wrong with her. And then we were getting drips that it was about a medical issue. And then she comes out and says it was cancer and she was struggling with it, with that video co-produced with the help of the BBC. That also was a cover-up. It doesn't take away the fact that she was dealing with a cancer diagnosis. And honestly, we still don't know what she's dealing with. And we still don't know what King Charles is dealing with as well. That's why it still lingers. But Kensington Palace, the royal family figured out we have to give more. This case, it's the same thing. It's just different country, different job, but both are public servants. Here are my predictions. I'll say this. I may be wrong. We will come back and check the tape later. If I'm correct, you'll hear about it. But even if I'm off the mark, we'll still talk about it because I think there will be dots that we can connect. Prediction 1, this story does not stay small. It only stays small as long as the rest of the news is loud. The minute there is a quiet news week and we're heading into the summer, and there will be, this becomes a national segment. Probably a Sunday show, probably maybe a former member of Congress saying the quiet part out loud about what is owed to constituents. Maybe someone who's been a Republican who's been victimized by Trump, who went against Trump and lost, maybe now has nothing to hide and starts putting pressure out there. I think we're going to hear something soon. 2, his own party turns on him before his opposition does. The radio silence quotes from House Republicans are not loyal frustration. They are a setup. In a thin majority, every missing vote is a problem and also is a news story. And party leadership will eventually have to choose between protecting him and protecting the majority. They will choose the majority. 3, the image management gets worse before it gets better. Watch the social feeds. If they keep posting in the first person with no current photo, no current video, no proof of life, that is the tell. That is the team deciding that simulated presence is safer than honest absence. And by the way, it is not. It never is. 4, whenever the real disclosure comes, and it will come, the story will not be about the illness. It will be about the 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, whatever days. It will be about every statement that did not quite say anything. It will be about the gap between what they could have said and what they chose to say, because that is always what the story becomes when you stall. The cover up always becomes bigger than the thing it was covering. So here's what I want you to take away from this, whether you're a leader, a founder, a comms person, or just someone watching this play out. If you are ever in a situation where something has gone wrong and you are tempted to say, we'll be transparent soon, stop. That sentence is a tell. That sentence is the sound of a door being held shut from the inside while you hope nobody notices the door. You do not have to share everything. You almost never have to share everything, but you do have to share something. You have to give people the category, the timeline, the next checkpoint, and the name of the person they can talk to in the meantime. That is not invasive. That is basic respect that you owe people whose attention, money, votes, or trust you have asked for. Privacy is a boundary, but secrecy is a strategy. And when you confuse the two, you do not protect yourself. You hand the story to everyone else and let them write it for you. I will keep watching this one, and I think we all should be. All right, everyone, that's the show for this week. It's a little bit of a short one because of the holiday, but I wanted to get this on the record now before the lull comes and the story comes roaring back. Bye for now.